In today's video, we're going to tackle the Jacob's Ladder stitch. This is a crochet stitch that takes a little bit of extra time to work because of the chain stitches that we work, but it gives an absolutely insane amount of texture to any project that you might want to do. It works great when you pair it in two different colour stripes like I've done here, but it also works in a solid colour or in a solid block of variegated yarn. So without further ado, let's grab our crochet hooks and jump straight in. The Jacob's Ladder stitch is a 2-row repeat, so you work the same 2 rows until your project is as long as you want it to be, and then you work 2 final rows to bring the whole project together into one finished piece. For your starting chain, you are going to need to chain a multiple of 5 plus 1. So go ahead and chain as many stitches as you want in multiples of 5 and then add 1 stitch on to finish your starting chain. I'm just going to make a small sample today, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 36. You might find it useful to use a crochet hook that is one size larger than the hook that you plan to use for the rest of your project. You want to start your first row by working a double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook. Don't forget, this little loop that is actually on your hook doesn't count, so you want to count 1, 2, 3 down and work a double crochet into that 3rd chain from your hook. Then you want to work 3 more double crochet, 1 into each of the next 3 chains. This little 2 chain loop here counts as 1 double crochet, and then we've added 4 double crochet on, so we have a total of 5 stitches. What you want to do next is chain 10. When you've chained 10, you want to pop your hook back into the first top 2 loops of the double crochet that you just worked. You want to pull up a loop and join it to form a slip stitch. So you're slip stitching that chain 10 back to the bottom of the double crochet that you started from. And then you want to work 5 double crochet, 1 into each of the next 5 chains. Once you've worked your 5 double crochet, you want to again chain 10. And once again, you want to pop your hook into the double crochet that you just worked, into the top 2 loops of it. So basically down through the middle of the stitch, pull up a loop and close it to form a slip stitch. And you want to work all the way along the rest of your foundation chain in blocks of 5 double crochet, and then 10 chain stitches, and then slip stitch that 10 chain to the top of the 5th double crochet all the way to the end of the row, and you will end on 5 double crochet. Do not chain 10 at the end of that last 5th double crochet at the very end of your chain. At the end of your row, you want to chain 1. This does not count as a stitch, and turn. What you now want to do is work back and think in blocks of 5 stitches. That's just to purely help you to push these chain loops out of the way, because we are just going back and working 1 single crochet into every stitch along. But if you think in blocks of 5, it will help you to deal with these loops. So go straight back into the top of the very last stitch we worked, because that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and work a single crochet. That's 1. Then you want to work 4 more single crochet for a total of 5, and you will find that the 5th single crochet that you work falls into the double crochet that was worked after we chained 10. So you'll see here that you have the chain 10 kind of attached to that double crochet. What you then want to do is push your chains out of the way and find the next stitch that was worked, which is here, and work a single crochet into the top of that double crochet. So that's 1. You want to again work in blocks of 5. Your 5th stitch should put you just to the right of the chain loop. You want to push the chain loop so that it's at the back of the current row, but that it will be at the front of your work, and then carry on working those single crochets. Just always remember to make sure that you push those chain loops to the rear of this row so that they are sticking out on the opposite side, which is our right side of our work. And you repeat that all the way to the end of the row, and your final single crochet is worked into the top of that chain 2 at the very beginning of our first row. If you are carrying on in the same colour, you would finish off this single crochet and chain 2 and turn, but as I want to showcase off the Jacob's Ladder to you at its best, I'm going to introduce a new colour, and the way I like to change colour is just to finish off that single crochet with the new colour. And then I will chain 2, which does count as a stitch, and turn my work. So we now have the right side of our work facing us, and because this chain 2 counts as our first double crochet, we don't work into this first stitch, and you want to work 4 more double crochet, 1 into the top of the next 4 stitches. Just like we did with the foundation row, once we have worked the 4th double crochet but our 5th stitch, you want to chain 10 and then pop your hook into the top of that double crochet and make a slip stitch to close that chain 10 into a little loop. And just like with the foundation row, you want to go across the row working blocks of 5. So we're going to work 5 double crochet, chain 10, join with a slip stitch and repeat, and you will finish the row on 5 double crochet and you won't chain 10 at the end of that row. Because our chain 1 turn at the end of this first row didn't count as a stitch, your 5th and final double crochet from this row is going to be worked into the top of the single crochet, and you ignore the chain 1. Then, just like we did with our previous single crochet row, we're going to chain 1 that does not count as a stitch and turn our work. And then we're going to work all the way back across, working 1 single crochet into the top of each double crochet from the previous row. If it helps to think in blocks of 5, then do so, and when you get to your 5th stitch that's worked onto the right hand side of the chain loop, you want to push that chain loop to the back of your work, find the next double crochet and crochet over it, and that has the effect of pushing the loop to the front side of your work. Work that all the way to the end, making sure to remember to work that final single crochet into the top of the chain 2 turn from the previous row. What you want to do now is go away and repeat those 2 rows until your project is nearly the size that you want it to be. Once you've done that, we need to work 2 rows to close off these loops. I'll show you how to do that. And then there's an optional final 2 rows that gives you symmetry at the top and bottom of your work. So go ahead, make as many of these rows as you want, and then come back and I'll show you how to finish it off. Your project, once you've finished, will look something like this. You will have your nice rows and you'll have all of these dangling loops, which obviously look nothing like Jacob's Ladder stitch at the moment. So what we want to do now is to work 2 final rows, which will then attach these all together. I have changed colour and chained 2 like I would do with every other row. And what I'm going to do now is work a row of just double crochet, no more chain loops. So we're just going to pop 1 double crochet into the top of every single stitch, not forgetting that as this chain 2 counts as a stitch, we don't work anything into the top of that very first double crochet. So just work all the way along, popping 1 double crochet into the top of every stitch, and make sure to push these loops forward as you crochet over. At the end of your row, you can make your loop bigger so that you don't accidentally frog it, and remove your hook for the moment, because now what we need to do is to turn these loose chain loops into our Jacob's ladders. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can do it just using your hands. So starting from the bottom, you want to work and thread each chain loop through the one below it, gradually working your way up your work and creating that distinctive Jacob's Ladder effect. So you can either do it using your fingers like that, or you can use a crochet hook to help you along your way, effectively chaining all the way up your work. like that. And you want to pull them so that this last loop is still dangling, and you want to do that across the whole of your work. And when you're done, your project will now look a little bit like this. At this point, you want to pop your hook back into that final row that you've worked and close up that loop, and you want to chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're still going to be working in blocks of 5, but I want you to think of it in blocks of 4 and then 1 and then 1 and then 4. I'll show you what I mean. So you want to work 4 single crochets into the first 4 stitches from the row below. So 1 into each stitch. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, so you're working into the very first stitch. So that's 4. On the 5th single crochet, you pop your hook into the stitch, and you want to find your chain loop that is hanging loose, and you want to pop your hook through your chain loop, and you want to work your single crochet so that it catches that chain loop with it, and that secures it. Then for the first single crochet of your next set of 5 stitches, you want to also pop your hook into the stitch and all the way through, catching that chain loop on your hook as well, so that when you single crochet over it, and you're securing your chain loop so that they can't then come undone. Then you want to work 3 more single crochet, so you want to think of that as 1, 2, 3, 4 of our 5 stitch block. And then on the 5th stitch, again, you're going to pop your hook into the single crochet, find the chain loop and also pop that on your hook, and then work your single crochet through that chain loop. Then we're back to the beginning of our 5 stitch section. So the first single crochet of 5, also you pop your hook through that chain loop and work your single crochet through the stitch and the chain loop, and then stitches 2, 3 and 4 are worked as normal. And then stitch 5, you pop your hook in, find that chain loop, making sure that this one hasn't slipped off it, pop it across your hook, and then single crochet over it. So stitch 1 and stitch 5 go through the chain loop. So you are catching your chain loops with stitch 5 and stitch 1 of the block of 5. And you do that all the way across to the end. Lots of Jacob's Ladder tutorials that you see will tell you to stop here, project done. But my eyes hate the fact we have a lovely plain row of double crochet here and we don't have the matching one here. So to finish off, I like to just work a row of double crochet and back with single crochet, because to me it changes the way the stitch looks and just makes it look much more balanced. So it's a row that like we have worked with this blue yarn, but we're not catching any chain loops because we did that already, and we are literally just doing this to give a nice polished finished look. So finish your single crochet off with a new colour, chain 2 and turn. That counts as your first double crochet, so we don't work into this stitch here, and then you want to double crochet all the way across, not worrying about any chain loops, any catching of any stitches. It's just one plain row of double crochet. Once you've finished that row of double crochet, you want to chain 1 and turn. That doesn't count as a stitch, and then work a single crochet back into every stitch that you've just worked, working the last single crochet into the top of that chain 2 that you did at the beginning of the row below. I think at least by adding those last 2 rows, it just makes the stitch pattern look that little bit more balanced. And that's how you crochet the Jacob's Ladder stitch. If the Jacob's Ladder is just one step of texture too far, then why not give the herringbone double crochet a go? I've linked the video here and I'd love for you to take a look. Herringbone double crochet has amazing texture without quite the labour intensive nature that Jacob's Ladder does. I'll see you again for another tutorial soon. Bye!